Okay, today I want to explain the land cover investigation, some details that you're going to need for Monday. Just a note, Monday both classes, C and D, are going to go out. So bring sturdy shoes. We're going to go into the forest and start our biometry measurements. This is going to be the data sheet that we use. And you can see that the columns that we have here are canopy observations. And oops, let me get a different color here. Yeah. So there's canopy cover observations, and so this is where you're going to either put a plus if there's tree canopy above you, or negative if there's sky or shrub. This is looking through the densitometer, the tube I showed you in class. Then canopy species or a common name, that's where we're going to put, you're going to look up, plus, and then you'll put like red maple, for instance. If it's a minus, obviously you will not put anything in this area. Then, looking up through the same densitometer, you're going to be looking at whether something is an evergreen or deciduous. Evergreen is like a pine tree, and deciduous is like any tree that loses its leaves, like an oak or a maple. The next thing you do is, if you are holding the densitometer, after doing the trees, which is all these three columns, then you're going to do this one here, this ground observations. And you're going to look down at your feet, and your feet are about shoulder width apart, and you're going to, if any green is touching your foot or touching your leg, you put G. If it's a brown, like brown leaves, dead leaves, you'd put a B. Or if it was just dirt, you'd put negative for no cover. And then you need to go and identify what part of green cover that is. It could be a gremnoid, a forb, other green vegetation, a shrub, or a dwarf shrub, and those things we'll talk about. That's one reason why I wanted to show you this video. So after we get that information, especially this stuff right here, this one column right here, we'll be able to then get a percentage of evergreens to deciduous, and we'll be able to then go to this key, which is a key that is just like the keys we used in class today. It's going to be a key with two choices. This is just the first choice right here, where you have, is the site developed? Yes, developed, meaning that it's like houses are on it, or no, it's natural. And then you go to page 2 and so on. And so this is actually a key we're going to use to identify what type of forest we're studying. All right. So let's go back to this land cover investigation, the cover sheet that you'll be using. Back to these, the gremnoid, forb, other green vegetation, shrub, dwarf shrub. Really, we're not going to see too many dwarf shrubs. Well, maybe, I may not say that actually. But I just want to identify each type of these things. So when I look and I'm going to have gremnoid, and these are just another name for grasses, the family of grasses that we're all familiar with. And so anything that's a grass that has a general shape, like this, sometimes there'll be some other little flower-like things coming off of it, but mostly it will grow from the bottom and have no big showy flower. A forb, on the other hand, is something that is more branchy and tends to have flowers and leaves. So that's forb is usually identified by flowers. If you see seeds on it also, if it has seeds, then it's going to be a forb also. Then we have, now there's going to be some other things out there also. There'll be mosses, which are, if this was the ground, there'd be these low little, almost they look like little pine trees. And those would be considered mosses. And also you'll get the ferns, which look something like this. Very common in New Hampshire. and they're about about knee high at the most, mostly ankle high, and those are ferns. Both of these are going to be under the other green vegetation. Poor things, they're just thrown into this other category, even though they're quite pretty. Then shrubs are going to be shrubs, and let me just say, a tree. It has one trunk, and then it branches out up like this, and there's going to be leaves and things. So one trunk on a tree. If you see something that has multiple trunks, like this, and it tends to be much smaller, this would be over 15 feet, greater than 15, yeah, 15 feet, and this would be less than 15 feet. Then this is going to be a shrub. And there's going to be some, there's no perfection here. Plants don't read the books. So there'll be a time that you might just have to ask me whether it's a tree or a shrub. The important thing, though, is that you realize that we're not counting shrubs. We're looking only at trees. Something that's over 15 feet is what you're using your densiometer for. And so if you're standing right here, looking up through the shrub, well, if it's a giant shrub, if you're standing here, looking up, you would actually ignore the shrub and look up at the leaves of the trees above you. All right, so do not record a plus if it's the leaf of a shrub. So now we know the difference between a tree and a shrub. There's also dwarf shrubs, which are going to be small leaf. They're going to have leaves. They're not going to be like moss, and they're going to be very small. The ones we have are called partridge berry. They'll probably have a red berry and opposite green leaves, and that's the only time you really will say to put a DS on the dwarf shrub part.